Today on Weed Weekly, episode 376, crazy non-smokers get destroyed by cool weedies.
This episode is hosted by Cook and Eat. I'm Leo.
And I'm Michel.
Today we're joined by Dr. Emil Osman and Professor Nyblom. We'll be discussing Canada's situation after the legalization of weed and how it looks now, 4 years later. What do you guys think?
Well, Leonidas, should I start?
I'll start. Thank you. So, Canada. They legalized weed back in 2018 in an attempt to bring in money, jobs, and dissolve the illegal weed market. But in our view, things didn't exactly turn out that way.
So, we're here today because we don't think the pros outweigh the cons, really. Weed is inherently unhealthy. There are short-term effects and long-term effects. Some example of short-term effects are confusion, fatigue, anxiety, fear, panic, problems with your memory, concentration, and the ability to react. Yes, there are a lot of them. Weed can also negatively affect your memory, concentration, and ability to make rational decisions for days or even months after you stop taking weed. Those effects also have a possibility of becoming permanent. We're talking real long-term effects here. Yeah. Over to you.
And only 50% of all weed that is purchased in Canada is actually legal. The other 50% is sold by the illegal market. According to the CEO and president of the Cannabis Council of Canada, George Smitherman, the black market is still selling billions of dollars worth of weed.
Whoa.
Seems to us that the legal market is still thriving and, being alive.
Yeah, so our point is basically legalizing weed might look good on paper, but in practice, like the real world, you weedies, things have ironically gone south.
While it may be a controversial take, we think legalizing weed is a good idea for different reasons that many people choose to unsee. Many people have looked on cannabis as something negative, and consequences came with it when it became legal. While legalizing cannabis may not be perfect, it still comes with some positive effects that few people choose to unsee. Cannabis is a big factor in a lot of different health perspectives, whether it's mental health or health in general. Just naming some risks that come with cannabis: depression, anxiety, and panicking. But making cannabis legal might as well be the sole reason for the statistics decreasing. Mental health problems decreasing is what I'm actually trying to say. While the black market is still thriving, I still think that we actually should give it some time, because it takes years after all. And actually, there is some truth to, weed being good when it's actually just there, because it's actually used for medication. You have to be over 18, or at least 18, in order to purchase weed. And just as easy as it is to use it for pleasure and negative ways, it is also as easy to use it in good ways. For happy people.
While we're on the topic of the illegal market, I'd like to say that the illegal market and the legal market have one big difference, and that is the legal market can guarantee safety when using cannabis. The illegal market cannot. And the reason the illegal market is still running is because the price per ounce is about half of what the legal ounce is. Therefore, the problem is not within the legal market. The problem is that people cannot afford safe drugs. Therefore, they have to turn to the illegal market to use recreational drugs.
Yeah, but that begs the question, like, what in the first half, isn't this about the public safety? Maybe if you're going to have a high price of weed, then people are, of course, not going to buy it. And if you want them to buy the safer weed, why not have the price be lower than the unsafer weed? So then what is your point really?
Okay, so you're saying that the population of Canada is too poor to support the legal market of weed. So, like, how would you ever expect it to work? How would you ever expect to drive out the illegal market if you're saying that they can't afford the safe and legal weed?
Well, the cannabis market has actually created jobs, and those jobs imply that people can afford the safer weed. We have to create more stable jobs and well-paying jobs for people to start using the legal weed and not the illegal market type. Therefore, the problem is not with the legal market of weed. The problem is too many citizens do not have a good job.
While the illegal market is actually an important topic in this discussion, I still think that public health is more important. So what do you guys have to say about that?
Well, I think we should discourage weed then, if we really care about the public health. Maybe not outright ban weed. Maybe we shouldn't like put people who smoke weed in jail. That's probably a bit counterproductive. I'm looking at you, Leonidas. But still, my point is that we should definitely make sure that smoking weed maybe isn't like the number one thing people do regularly. And so, what do you think? Anyone?
On the topic of public health, why should we not have legalized weed? The illegal market is way more unsafe and can be cut with other drugs such as fentanyl, and that is way worse for public health than having a legal weed system.
The way I see it, the best way to keep the public healthy is to not give any weed at all. Why are we giving these people poison? Like, there's effects, it's poisoning you.
Yes, but without the legal market, more people will turn to the illegal market. Therefore, the legal market is there in the first place.
But why? But shouldn't we make it unsatisfactory couldn't we make people not want to smoke weed at all?
Well, good luck with that.
But the way I see it, also, if we legalize weed, what we're saying to the people is that smoking weed, it's okay, It's actually, not as bad as people think it is. So go ahead and smoke as much as you can.
It's probably going to become the same deal as alcohol per se, with a lot of drunk driving accidents. We will now have a lot of weed influenced driving accidents. I'd actually like to say that a nephew's brother had a father who was killed in a drunk driving accident with a person on weed. Maybe that would be a lot more common if we legalized weed altogether.
Actually, it has actually been shown by criminologists that legalization of weed has actually been successful with reducing the amount of offenses by the drug. And it has shown that a lot of people who are actually under the drug are not committing as much crimes as it would normally do if it wasn't illegal.
Also, on the topic of saying to people that it's safe to use, it's not really safe to use if you smoke it too much, but if you use cannabis responsibly, it is of course safe to use, and no long-term effects should be there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could say, you drink responsibly. It's, somewhat healthy or not as dangerous.
But now we have people who do not drink responsibly.
Alcohol is very addictive, so it's, and weed is also very addictive. Not everyone is going to use it responsibly.
Exactly. Weed is just like alcohol. You have to use it responsibly. And just like alcohol, people can become alcoholic and you can be addicted to weed. But the risk of addiction to weed is way less, therefore responsible use of cannabis should be able to sustain.
Okay, the risk of addiction may be lower. That doesn't necessarily mean that a sustainable usage of marijuana will be common through everyone in the Canadian society. And it doesn't take away the health effects that comes with weed and consuming it.
Well, consuming the product too much will of course lead to health effects, but just as alcohol, that also leads to severe health effects.
Yeah, well, I mean, alcohol is bad, yeah.
should we outlaw alcohol as well?
I think that's really ingrained in our society. And yes, I think in an ideal society, maybe alcohol consumption would be much, much lower. But it's kind of ingrained, and legalizing weed would probably ingrain it in society as well. So now we had two drugs that are just sitting there, unable to be moved out of society. And yeah, it's not particularly good look.
Well, I do agree with you, but at the same time, if we're gonna ban one of them, I do think banning alcohol is much more of a better idea. Just because of the sole reason that nobody is called alcohol dealer, but there are cannabis dealers, weed dealers, and
Oh yeah, there are definitely alcohol dealers.
well, there are definitely much more cannabis dealers, and I would argue that it's kind of unrelated to Canada, but Sweden's Centre Party had actually the idea of legalizing cannabis, since it could actually minimize the amount of young criminals.
Why are you talking about Sweden? We're Americans, patriots.
Okay.
And according to statistics, the usage of alcohol cause way worse home situations and, for example, wife beatings and so on. Therefore, cannabis should be better than alcohol.
Although there are probably cases where there's gonna be psychosis, mental health issues. As I said in the literal beginning, a lot of negative consequences stemming from cannabis to Leonidas. I see you're
Yeah.
holding.
Well, the thing about alcohol, yes, it does have worse effects than weed, but there's such a worldwide market on it. It's, it would be very hard to outlaw it.
Yeah.
There's such a big industry. A lot of people would lose their jobs. Canada, they would probably lose a huge part of their income from taxes. That I don't think weed could replace.
Dr. Emil mentioned that there were some health effects on weed, but there are also several positive ones, especially for chemo patients to feel better. There is the euphoria feeling, there is a sense of well-being, relaxation, and some people go for the heightened sensory experiences, but that is probably not. But in conclusion, it does help with some medical.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree on that it definitely could help in the medical field, but here we're talking about recreational drugs, and particularly recreational weed, and that's not the same as medical weed. As a doctor, I'm proud to be for and entirely for medical weed whenever it's deemed the best solution. I don't think putting weed in some kid's body because they feel bored is the best solution to the boredom.
But the legal market says that you have to be 18 to purchase weed. So what do you mean by kid? Do you mean that you are still a kid if you're older than 18?
I mean, yeah, you could be a man-child.
Well, the brain isn't fully developed until you're 25. So if you take weed during that period of 18 and 25, that could leave permanent effects on your brain.
Yeah.
But when you're 18, you are going to be held responsible for your own actions. Therefore, I think the limit of 18 is reasonable.
Although then weed is probably going to be regarded the same way as alcohol is today by society. We adults think it's completely normal to drink alcohol, but teenagers and young adolescents will probably think, oh, it's such a mystical, cool drug that all the adults are taking. Maybe I should try it before I'm 18.
Well, ensuring that minors do not gain access to weed is a huge part of the legal market. Isam.
Well, as Leonel said, I actually kind of agree with you that I don't agree that we should take weed away, but I do agree that it should be an age restriction to 25, since it would actually probably benefit us in a better way instead of it being 18. Also, I think that the more we actually support the idea of having legalized weed, we'll slowly start conquering the illegal market, perhaps, because with the prices and stuff like that, if we actually have better prices, and it's, as Leonard mentioned before, if it's better weed and not that kind of,
Cut with fentanyl.
yeah, exactly.
We need to ensure public safety at first. Therefore, the legal market is just simply better.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the best way to combat the illegal market is to just discourage weed use, in general, using weed in general, instead of giving them legally?
True facts, right here.
Wouldn't they turn to other drugs, such as the psychoactives like MDMA and cocaine and so on?
Well, if you then you should discourage all drugs.
That is true. But the legal market has taken over 50% of the illegal market. And it's more accessible to cannabis than other drugs. Therefore, cannabis use is way more popular, and the other drugs have also gone down. And it's by far the best drug to use if there is one out there to use. So therefore, I think the legal market is perfectly in place. Although, maybe 25-year-old age limit is good, as you said.
Well, solely just speaking on criminals and stuff and related stuff, I argue that it's one of the most important aspects when talking about cannabis, because it has been shown that cannabis has actually led to a lot of suicide cases, and the suicide rate has actually been going up drastically while the years are passing by, and a lot of people, especially young or
Malleable minds.
a lot of college students are actually hopping off, and it has been shown that a lot of there's a reason for it. Of course, not the whole reason, but the majority of it is actually drug-related problems.
Yeah.
So
That's-
why? So you're saying weed was a part of the reason they jumped out of school?
No, I'm not saying just weed,
Yeah,
but
no, part of the reason.
yeah, because there are a lot of young criminals, and when you talk about college, it's not that crazy to think about it.
I think maybe college students maybe should be getting help instead of cannabis.
I agree. On another topic now, I want to discuss the economic advantage of the legal market. It has brought about 11 billion Canadian dollars in sales, contributed 43.5 billion Canadian US dollars to Canada's GDP, and the government has earned 15.1 billion Canadian dollars in tax revenue, and it is currently regarded as over 98,000 jobs available in the legal market. Therefore, I think it helps the Canadian society.
Yeah, although that does come at a cost of maybe we have discussed all of these negative side effects about weed, and that's the cost of this.
But shouldn't that be countered with people responsibly using the drug? As well as alcohol, which you can get off shelves. Isn't it all about being able to responsibly use it?
Yeah, but not everyone's gonna do it. And how many people responsibly use this drug?
Probably a lot of people.
I mean, we can't possibly really
I'd
know
say
that.
there are more responsible users than irresponsible users.
It's pretty addictive.
That is
drug.
true, but it's a proportional size of irresponsible users. When the usage base grows, the irresponsible users percentage will also grow. That's my...
Well, you're not wrong, to be honest, because you could call them irresponsible, but at the same time, it's actually kind of our fault that these kind of drugs exist, of course.
Yeah.
But I still think that it's a great way to counter-attack the way young criminals exist. And it's a really great way to actually minimize it.
Shouldn't we still try to get the people who are using it responsibly help, since they might be addicted?
Yeah, that's literally our points.
Yes, but the legal market is not the problem. The problem is people who are addicted then.
Yeah, that's also our points.
So the legal market should stay.
No?
Not at all.
Well, the problem is not the legal market. The problem is the people who use it.
Yeah.
Well,
Why should we be supplying them weed? We should
Why?
we shouldn't give them weed then. We should get them off weed.
Because then they are able to access it legally and safely instead of illegally and unsafely.
We shouldn't be giving them weed at all. They shouldn't be taking any weed.
Well,
Okay,
there are far less casualties.
Isam, you have an
Legal market.
announcement to make.
Yeah.
well, I think that legalizing weed is both good and bad in both ways. Of course, it has some positive effects and some negative effects. I think that it was a great discussion, and we should probably round this off.
Yeah, the time for the usual Weed Weekly podcast is running out. I think they'll sue us soon. I've actually listened to a few of these Weed Weekly
Hello,
podcasts.
this is Weed Weekly editor here, Emil Osborne. I would just like to give a big thanks to all the participants, all those glorious participants who participated in this epic podcast.
And you can hear my thoughts, can you feel my soul? Can you feel it too?